Can we review this paper real quick? Well, I haven't read it myself. Just saw this like emotional video about it. Okay, what's the title of the paper?
The title of the paper is Personalized Adaptive Cortical Electrostimulation, PACE, for treatment-resistant depression.
Okay, just for a sanity check, can you review figure 1 real quick?
I'm sorry, but I don't have access to the specific details of figure 1.
I just shared the paper with you.
Got it. Let me take a look at figure 1 from the paper and break it down for you. Just a moment while I pull up the details.
What is not on nerve?
Thank you for sharing the paper. I understand you're interested in figure 1. However, I don't have direct access to the figure content. If you can describe the figure or share some details about it.
Okay, that didn't work well, did it? Yes, it didn't have access to the whole thing, even if you... Hey, do you have access to figure 1? Can you describe figure 1? The paper is open source. I'm still loading the PDF. Okay, can you describe figure 1 real quick? 1CD. It's called heme. It sounds like... what's heme? It's that specific patient. Did I refer to them as him? Yes, just okay. Yeah, I've seen one of those videos once. Okay, can you describe the paper in plain language without using any terminology?
All right, here's the no jargon version. This paper is about a man who had been severely depressed for over 30 years. And nothing, not medications, not shock therapy, not other treatments, had helped. The researchers tried a new approach where they first scanned his brain in detail to see exactly which areas were working differently from most people. They found one system in his brain was taking up way too much space and pushing into areas linked to mood and thinking. They then surgically placed thin electrical pads on top of his brain in spots chosen just for him, based on the scans. After surgery, they tested which spots affected his mood and thinking right away, and adjusted the settings over several months using a smart, data-driven process. Within 2 months, he no longer had thoughts of ending his life. Within 9 months, his depression was gone, and it stayed that way for at least 2.5 years. His thinking speed and attention even got a little better. The main point, matching the treatment to his unique brain layout and adjusting it based on his responses, worked when nothing else had.
Okay, can you touch on what do you mean by found one system in his brain taking up way too much space? What does that mean?
In plain language, brains are organized into different teams of areas that handle different kinds of work. In most people, these teams have a certain balance in how much brain real estate they each use. In this man, one particular team, the one that's in charge of spotting and reacting to important things, had grown so big that it was taking over territory normally used by other teams, especially ones involved in balancing emotions and focusing. So, taking up too much space means that this team's turf had expanded far beyond its usual borders, and in doing so it was squeezing out the brain areas that help keep mood steady and thinking clear.
I don't use teams in that way. It's hallucinating on me already. I think. Where did you get the teams term from? It's not in the paper. Just want to see if it's... just want to ground it to the...
Yeah, team was just my own analogy. The paper never calls them that. In the paper, they're talking about functional brain networks like the salience network, default mode network, and frontoparietal network. I swapped network for team, so it would make sense without technical terms. If you want me to, I can redo that bit, sticking strictly to what's in the paper, just in plain language.
Yeah, just don't make up terms if you can. But can we move on explaining figure 1 real quick in plain language, but make it technical. Explain it to like an engineer, not a neuroscientist. That was actually GPT-5. Yeah, that wasn't a great response.
Got it. Here's figure 1 explained for an engineer. Figure 1 is essentially a spatial occupancy and overlap analysis of the patient's brain networks compared to population baselines. Main finding: in this patient, the salience network covered 12.4% of cortical surface area, about 4 times the average in healthy controls. The expansion was concentrated in the frontal cortex, or 35% coverage there. Impact: this enlarged salience network encroached on other networks. The default mode network lost 25% of its typical surface area, and the frontoparietal network lost 18.6%. Visualization: 1A shows the salience network in inflated brain surface views, comparing patient versus individual control versus group average atlas. You can see how atlas-based stimulation targets, BA10, BA46, overlap differently in this patient. NARIS-1B is a bar chart quantifying salience network size in this patient versus 3 control datasets, HCPD, PDC, Lynch et al. Stats confirm the difference is significant. -1C maps DMN, FPN, AMN, and DAN in the patient and group average, then overlays the patient's salience mask to show displaced boundaries. 1D quantifies how much of each network's area has been overtaken by the salience network, high for DMN and FPN, negligible for DAN. So, in engineering terms, think of each network as a defined spatial partition in the cortical floor plan. In this patient, one partition, salience, had overexpanded and was occupying sections normally allocated to other subsystems.
Can you explain figure 1B? Which one is the current study and which one is compared? So they're just comparing it to one other study today, or what's HCP PDC? Well, knows the topic much better than I do, so let's give it to Gemini 2.5 Pro. It's on about 10,000 tokens, the whole paper. We can't read it out loud, we can turn it into a conversation, so like a chat. Yeah, obviously the N01 placebo effect. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I think this is pretty much all you need to know about this paper. The placebo effect. The placebo effect in invasive neurosurgery for psychiatric condition is known to be extremely powerful. The patient, who has suffered for decades, underwent a highly advanced, personalized and hopeful procedure. This creates a massive expectancy effect. I assume that's when the patient is expecting great outcomes. So essentially it's tricking the patient into believing it actually works, and the brain just does it. We know it works. It's not a sham. Well, it is a sham in this case. I mean, yeah, invasive implant is N01, so one subject only, and then seeing these great results. Well, based on self-reporting, the patient is saying that he is experiencing joy and things like that, and they got some really emotional videos out of it. Yeah, so the placebo effect, hopeful, creates massive expectancy effect. The paper shows his self-reported expectation of benefit, the CEQ score, don't know what that is, jumped from 30% pre-surgery to 90% post-surgery, while the acute blinded stimulation test demonstrated true physiological effects. They cannot rule out that the long-term remission is driven by a powerful and sustained placebo response. Let's just check the numbers. Credibility/expectancy questionnaire. That would be interesting. And the other question is if they address placebo. Did I mention placebo? No, there's a reference mentioning placebo. They do not. Yeah, so very interesting results. Yeah, they get you can watch the videos, highly emotional stuff. Conflict of interest. Yeah, pretty much any paper, just go straight to the conflict of interest statement. You'll be amazed. But it's good that they're reporting. I know some other papers do not even report the conflict of interest properly. And normally there's a high bias to think that the conflicts of interest that you have are not relevant to the results? Well, I would say, disclose your conflict of interest and let the reader decide if they're relevant or not. But yeah, how many times so they don't mention placebo, which they should have. How many times they mention joy? They mention joy 7 times. So the feeling of joy, overwhelming feeling of joy. It feels nice, so weird to feel. It is so emotional. Yes, it just made the patient super emotional. Yeah, obviously just the surgery will make you super emotional. What could you make feel nice? This is also the fact that there's all this clinicians and people taking care of you and asking you questions, letting you do all these tens of different questionnaires. That's also definitely will contribute to the placebo effect. It's nice that they're having equations. What on earth? The equations are for sleep quantity, preference ranking, measure of mood. Okay. Yes, it's quite a severe case. The patient is highly vulnerable. They're doing an implant. How many figures are there? There are only 3 figures of results. But yeah, just the fact that placebo was not addressed. I don't know if it's addressed in one of those questionnaires. I guess, yeah, it's that expectation thing, isn't it? The CEQ score. So there's a questionnaire for it. It's the expectation of benefit. And they do this questionnaire before and after. Anyway, essentially figure 1 shows how supposedly this patient having a different an abnormality in the brain, even though the evidence is I don't know. So they're comparing it. I mean, how does it compare to variability, to natural variability in other patients? And it's turned into a detailed conversation between, let's make a neuroscientist and an engineer. I mean, publishing a paper like that without addressing the placebo. And we had some other issues as well. Blinding during optimization. Paper operates on the premise that the expanded salience network is a causal factor in patients' depression. While the treatment success supports this, it's also possible that the network expansion is a long-term consequence of the illness or compensatory mechanism. The study doesn't definitely prove causality, although it proves strong correlation evidence. Yeah, so essentially this brain abnormality might not actually cause depression. It could be actually the result of the diagnosis, not the cause for it.